This is the Worship Team Training Podcast with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. Now, here's your host, Brannon Dempsey.
We are back, and we're so glad that you're joining us. We have Michelle Ruiz here today, and Michelle is joining us. She is a worship leader out from McAllen, Texas, and she's been leading worship since 2013. Her church is Hope Community Church out from Laredo, Texas. Everybody, please welcome Michelle Ruiz. Michelle, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Nice to be on the show.
Well, it's great to have you today. Thanks so much for being here. It's fantastic. And we got all of our friends that are watching right now. Thanks so much, everybody on Facebook Live and also Periscope coming in. We want to do this. We want to talk about the issue with helping our audio teams. And I want to hear from you, Michelle. We want to hear from you about your experience in your church, your worship team. Can you tell us a little bit about your church and worship team?
Well, it's a small church, about 80 during the week and then 150 on Easter. Everybody comes to church on Easter, but it's a smaller church, mainly where the servants are a lot of the same servants. You got to have people that are multitasking, multi-instruments, multi-gifts and talents to be able to come together to help the church. Because it's a smaller church, you don't have as many individuals who can do everything. So sometimes it's people learning how to do things in order to keep the church, going in the areas that it needs to be going.
True. Yeah. There's a lot of hard work that people, we can't really appreciate too much unless if you've been there at a small church. And so, Amy, you've been at a small church here in Periscope, and many of you have as well. What are some of the challenges, Michelle, that you guys face? I mean, first of all, tell us, before we get into challenges, how old or young is your church?
Our church actually goes back to the 1930s, actually, when it first opened, yes. And it's sustained itself, and it's still there, but it stayed a small church for very, very long. But it seems to be becoming healthier and steadily growing, and just spiritually and, physically in numbers.
Awesome. So now about the challenges, what are some that you face within your worship team and your audio team at your church?
It's funny that we're actually going over this, because, our church being a small church, it's an area that we really struggle with as far as audio. Actually, recently, we just kind of got rid of almost most of our, system as far as audio stuff goes. We went with a Bose unit that's just one unit that's behind the worship team. Yeah. So we're no longer with the monitors that are, coming back towards us. And just learning to go with that. So now we don't have as much sound bouncing around, especially when you have people who aren't as knowledgeable in the audio side. So then trying to find the balance between monitors and then what was going out and everything. So now that we have the Bose system, now it's finding to where everybody can hear themselves and stuff like that, because we don't have the monitors that are coming back. But the sound actually sounds a lot cleaner because we're not using, monitors back at us and sound going out. Right.
And that's a lot of struggle. So, How did you guys, as far as when you were in those challenges, because some people have ineffective systems right now and they don't really know, they let that maybe become a barrier to leading worship because it can become distracting. So how did you guys work through that?
It was kind of difficult. There were days, when you're getting ready for worship, those are not the things that you want to really be focusing on. You want to be able to start preparing your heart for worship and not be focusing on the fact that, there's sound issues and things like that. So just being able to communicate the needs, and then the sound team knowing that if I'm up on the stage, what I'm voicing is something that is obviously that we're experiencing, and then trying to find some sort of, teamwork to figure out how to fix it. My sound team is actually my bassist, so he's, doing sound before the show, or not the show, before worship, and then, going up on stage. And so once we start worship, that's like it. We don't have any little tweaks during worship. And so the only times that I get to do that is when I move, somebody to drums, move somebody to bass, and then he's able to go, like this week, he'll be doing some sound for us to be able to do some tweaks. But it's difficult, but being able to communicate is probably the biggest thing to have to, just respect each other and know that if somebody's feeling a certain way about sound, then, the other person just realizing, hey, what can I do to help with this?
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell us about a time that maybe you were challenged on a Sunday morning where maybe something fell apart, didn't work, but you guys pulled together as a team and accomplished what God had you to do. What was that? I know there was a time when we just didn't have sound like 10 minutes before church. Yeah. And, and that's like your whole practice time went out the window, just everything, and then just being flustered and everything. But it's a matter of everybody trying to, pull together, not just a sound person or, everybody trying to come together to figure out what could possibly be the issue that's going on. It's difficult, and then me as the leader having to stay calm and to not lose it and to be respectful at the time. We had an issue a couple weeks ago, and I had to admit after, hey guys, you know what, I probably should have dealt with it a little bit differently. I grew from it and know that, I can't let things like that, affect me, especially right before we're getting ready to lead, the church into God's presence. And so what happened, if I may ask? We finally, it ended up being like something as simple as like a cable issue. And so we finally were able to, to get it. But I had like my keyboard player saying, it's okay, I'll give up my cable so you can have a cable. You guys need to, start already. But we were able to work things out and definitely went out and got more cables that next week and stuff. But just, everybody pulling together and right at the very last minute, I think we were able to run through like maybe 2 of the songs very quickly before worship started. But it was just a matter of once we started to just stop, and I just had the keyboard player go with some ambient music and okay, let's regroup and just worship. So that's a great story and testimony. Thank you for sharing that for all of us to hear. What if it went south? What do you think? How could it have gone south? It could have been a pain if things didn't work out because something happened. What do you think could have happened in that scenario? Well, there was one time when we started worship with no microphones. And I said, we don't need microphones. We're just going to worship God. And thankfully, the song list that I had that week, there weren't any new songs or anything. And so we just went with the church singing, and I think midway through maybe our second song, we finally had our sound back up for as far as our mics went. But I've had it to where even the power has gone out and we worshiped in the dark. Wow. You just have to keep on going. You just do it. It's something that has to be done. And so you figure out the best way to do it. And really it's all about, our hearts and worshiping Him. So, whether all the instruments are able to be played because you have sound or not, as long as everyone can lift up their hands and worship. And if we have to go a cappella, then we go a cappella. Yeah, awesome. I love, we have a lot of people saying that they experience it too, and you got to just keep going forward. What helps you move forward past all of the inconsistencies, failures, whatever that happens? What keeps you moving forward as a worship leader? I think what keeps me looking forward is just, it's not about that stuff.
it's not about that. I don't have a PA system and everything when I'm worshiping in my bedroom, just being God. Yeah. So I know that the same thing can happen, in church. And I think a lot has to do with when the church is coming, when you have a people that are coming expecting to just enter into God's presence, then all that stuff doesn't matter as much. And yes, it's nice, but they know that God's presence will still fall, whether you have a sound system going or not. And so I just know that it's not about that stuff, and I just got to keep it about Him and not about those other things. So it's tough sometimes. It's easy to just get your eyes focused on those difficulties and everything, but in the end, you just have to see it as, well, God is still God, even though we're having all these technical difficulties. He's still on the throne, and it hasn't changed. So.
Wow, amen to that. That's the best news ever, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't care if a cable goes down. Right. People do, and we do, but you've, even in this show right here, thank you, you've exemplified a lot of humility and maturity, just even being cool and calm yourself. And I can see, I can see even how when you would lead worship, it's like, keeping things in perspective, keeping it focused, because you're exactly right. We let those little things rattle us, then it will rattle the whole church.
Right.
So I love that. And I think that, I've had those times too, and you just worship. It's like what you said. You don't stop. You don't make it about you. You make it about the Lord. That's who it is. And even here with what we do, we experience our own technical difficulties here putting the show on, and we have to be calm and just work through it. And when it works out, great. And when it doesn't, no big deal. No one's going to get hurt at the end of the day. And I think that's a lot like church, right, Michelle?
Right. They're the most forgiving most of the time.
Yeah. No one's going to die at the end of the service. That's the thing, or maybe before the service. Right. But this is fantastic. I just love your heart and your attitude. Michelle, she also is a member here at Worship Team Training University. Can you tell us a little bit about what do you like about the program? What has it done for you?
It's been really helpful. It's helped me think about things a lot differently, and it's God's timing also. Sometimes I feel like there's something that I'm going through within the team a certain week, and then the next week you're like talking about it. Encourage your team, or even down to making sure that you have all the licensing and just things like that. It's like, God has given us a platform, and He's given us something to be responsible for, and just doing everything that you can in order to learn more about it. Just a big thing is, that in 2 Samuel and David, and just, in the ark, and just being able to teach the team how to handle God's presence, how to handle responsibility of being on the worship team. I don't want anything to fall back on me as far as I didn't do it right. So the worship team training is something that just helps me learn more to make sure that I am doing it right, or that I am focusing on things that are important, or having grace when I need to have grace, as far as the team goes, or the church, or my pastor, or just everything. It never goes the way that you planned most of the time, but it's a part of God's plan. And so I think as long as we're growing spiritually, and we also have to find things like worship team training to just help us get to where we need to go, and as far as our ministry is concerned. Wow.
Everybody, thank you. Michelle? Michelle, thanks so much for that. And there you have it, guys. Spoken true from her experience. And Michelle, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. And we're going to have Michelle back. So, guys, if you're interested also in becoming a member just like Michelle here at Worship Team Training University, all you need to do is sign up. Go to WTTU.co. So we thank Michelle, and, hey, we look forward to having you back this coming tomorrow, Wednesday at 2 p.m., we're going to have Tim Carson on for the Vocal Artistry webinar. Tim Carson has been with Willow Creek Church, and he's been teaching voice for a long time. He's going to be sharing his experience tomorrow about how to strengthen our voices. And then Thursday, we're going to have Kent Morris come back to talk about audio and the challenges in the church and how we can serve effectively one another. And then next week we have our whole new schedule coming out, so be sure to keep up with that as we introduce it here on our social platforms and also back at WTTU.co and worshipteamtraininguniversity.com. Worshipteamtraining.com, you can find our workshops and everything else. With all that being said, guys, thanks so much for being here. Michelle, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, no, thanks.
All right, awesome. And we'll see you guys very soon this coming tomorrow, Thursday, and Tuesday. Have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye.
This has been a Worship Team Training broadcast and digital production with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. We'll see you again right here on worshipteamtraining.com.